Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
It sounds like you're using that thing. I don't know, it was a weird
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Ashtota Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Ashtota Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prishtaya, Bhutale, Srimate, Bhakti Vikasa, Swamini, Iti Namine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Canto 3, Chapter 7. I'm going to be reading text 32 through 35. So we'll do the Sanskrit and recitation, all that for text 32, and then I'll just read the rest. So, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Mokshanam, Nimittani, Avirodhataha, Vartayaha, Danda, Nitehe, Cha, Shrutasya, Cha, Vidhim, Pritak, Dharmartha Kama Mokshanam, Dharmartha Kama Mokshanam, Nimittanya Virodhataha, Nimittanya Virodhataha, Vartaya Dandanitescha, Vartaya Dandanitescha, Shrutasya Cha Vidhin Pritak, Shrutasya Cha Vidhim Pritak, Dharmartha Kama Mokshanam, Nimittanya Virodhataha, Vartaya Dandanitescha, Shrutasya Cha Vidhim Pritak, Dharmartha Kama Mokshanam, Nimittanya Virodhataha, Vartaya Dandanitescha, Shrutasya Cha Vidhim Pritak, Dharmartha Kama Mokshanam, Dharmartha Kama Mokshanam,
Nimittanya Virodhataha, Vartaya Dandanitescha, Shrutasya Cha Vidhim Pritak,
Shrutasya Cha Vidhim Pritak, Dharmartha Kama Mokshanam, Nimittanya Virodhataha, Vartaya Dandanitescha, Shrutasya Cha Vidhim Pritak, Dharmartha Kama Mokshanam, Nimittanya Virodhataha, Vartaya Dandanitescha, Shrutasya Cha Vidhim Pritak. Dharma, religiosity. Artha, economic development. Kama, sense gratification. Mokshanam, salvation. Nimittani, causes. Avirodataha, without being contradictory. Vartayaha, on the principles of the means of livelihood. Dandanitehe, of law and order. Cha, also. Shrutasya, of the codes of scriptures. Cha, also. Vidhim, regulations. Pratak, different. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. You may also describe the non-contradictory causes of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and salvation, and also the different means of livelihood and different processes of law and order, as mentioned in the revealed scriptures. So I'm going to read just the Sanskrit and translation purports for the next few ones, up to 35. So text 33. Shadhasya cha vidhim brahman pitrinam sargam evacha graha nakshatra taranam kalavayavasangstitim. Please also explain the regulations for offering respect to the forefathers, the creation of the Pitriloka, the time schedule and the planets, stars, and luminaries, and their respective situations. Purport: the time, durations of day and night, as well as months and years, are different in the different planets, stars, and luminaries. The higher planets, like the sun, like the moon and Venus, have time measurements different from those of the earth. It is said that 6 months of this planet Earth equal 1 day of the higher planets. In Bhagavad Gita, the duration of 1 day in Brahmaloka is measured to be 1,000 times the 4 yugas, or 4.3 million years multiplied by 1,000. And the month and year in Brahmaloka are calculated in that measure. Text 34. Danasya tapaso vapi yachcheshta purtayo phalam pravasas tasya yodharmo yashcha pumsa utapati. Please also describe the fruitive results of charity and penance and of digging reservoirs of water. Please describe the situation of persons who are away from home and also the duty of a man in an awkward position. Purport: the digging of reservoirs of water for public use is a great work of charity, and retiring from family life after 50 years of age is a great act of penance performed by the sober human being. Text 35. Yena va bhagavang stushid Dharma yonir janardanaha samprasidati va yesham etad akya hime nakha. Translation and purport. O sinless one, because the personality of Godhead, the controller of all living entities, is the father of all religion, and all those who are candidates for religious activities, kindly describe how he can be completely satisfied. All religious activities are meant to ultimately satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is the father of all religious principles. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7:16, 4 kinds of pious men, the needy, the distressed, the enlightened, and the inquisitive, approach the Lord in devotional service, and their devotion is mixed with material affection. But above them are the pure devotees, whose devotion is not tainted by any material tinges of fruitive work or speculative knowledge. Those who are only miscreants throughout their lives are compared to demons, Bhagavad Gita 7:15. They are bereft of all knowledge, in spite of any academic educational career they may pursue. Such miscreants are never candidates for satisfying the Lord. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutav Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhya Chakrapasandubi Eva Chapatita Nam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivikasa Swaminiti Namane. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashchate Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yasa Devi Parabhaktir Yata Devi Tatagaro Tasyate Katita Yarta Prakashante Mahatmanha. Okay, so I'll just read this last one here that we already have up. Yena va bhagavans tushed dharma yonir janardanaha samprasidati va yesham etad akya hi me nakha. O sinless one, because the personality of Godhead, the controller of all living entities, is the father of all religion, and all those who are candidates for religious activities, kindly describe how he can be completely satisfied. So here we see Vidura is continuing to ask more and more questions, and this happens multiple times in the Bhagavatam, where Parikshit Maharaj asks so many questions to Shukadeva Goswami at once and asks him to answer all these different questions, different topics. Vidura is asking about different things. He's asking about religiosity. He's asking about the time factor in different planets. What else is he saying here? Charity, fruitive results of charity. Asking about retired life, vanaprastha life, the duty of a man in an awkward position, worshipping the ancestors, the forefathers, the creation of Pitraloka. I mean, so many different things are being discussed here and asked. But he ends this sequence that I ended here with a very important question, which is, kindly describe how the personality of Godhead can be completely satisfied. He's the father of all religion and of all those who are candidates for religious activities. So please describe how he can be completely satisfied. So these other questions are important as well. They're kind of tangential. They're kind of they're not hitting on the absolute necessity of human life, though, as this last question is, which is how to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We see in the society, everyone's busily asking so many questions. The students are asking questions. The scientists are asking questions. The news reporters are asking different questions. The politicians are asking questions. It's just constant questions about all these different things in society, but nobody's asking the right questions for the most part. Everyone's asking questions that are related to this body, related to this world, and nobody's inquiring into the absolute truth. We understand, obviously, through Bhagavad Gita that Manushyanam sahasreshu kashchid yatati siddhaye, that it's only very rare for someone to actually inquire into the absolute truth and to try to understand who is Krishna, who are we. But they're busily asking so many different questions. And this beginning of the sequence, text 32, starts with this idea of explain to me the causes of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and salvation. And so this is, of course, referring to how most people, almost every person, views religious activity in this world as a means to increase these things, increase their pious activities so that they can get a better birth and enjoy in the next life, increase their sense gratification. So again, the pious activities is an extension of that, increasing their sense gratification. Economic development, which is also just a means to increase our sense gratification. And then liberation, when one becomes frustrated with trying to enjoy this world, ultimately they endeavor for liberation. So ultimately all of these four things are different aspects of trying to, again, attain sense gratification, trying to come into a better position, trying to enjoy ourselves separately. But, of course, here in text 35, Navadar is asking, well, okay, kindly describe how Krishna can be satisfied, how the personality of Godhead can be satisfied. So he's intelligently not asking, how can I become satisfied? How can I, enjoy this world? But he's understanding that Krishna is the enjoyer. He's bhoktaram yagya tapasam. And then there's also this aham hi sarva yagyanam bhuktacha prabhar evacha in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna says, I am the enjoyer of all the sacrifices, bhuktacha prabhar evacha, and the master. He's the master and enjoyer of all yagyas, all sacrifices. And then this 529, bhuktaram yagya tapasam. So he's the enjoyer of all austerities and yagyas, all sacrifices. So this is a central point of our philosophy, of course, that we are not the enjoyers. Krishna is the ultimate enjoyer. And this is emphasized so many times over and over again, but yet, at least for me, it's something that's very hard to comprehend and to understand and to come to the right perspective on. Because we've been trying to enjoy so long that we just can't even conceive of not enjoying, not being the enjoyer. Everything we do, even when we come to Krishna consciousness, we have this idea of trying to enjoy, different aspects of devotional service, right? Like we come in and the kirtan is very nice, it's very ecstatic, and then the prasadam, especially when I first came here, that was one of the first things I noticed. That the kirtan and the prasadam are just amazing, And I remember the first time I came this Sunday, it was like a big feast. I probably hadn't had a meal like that maybe in my life ever, I've had some nice meals, but that was like, just so many different items, and we used to like do a lot more in the Sunday feast than we do now, but it was a lot more variety and stuff. But I was just like, wow, this is amazing, and I left that day thinking, wow, like the kirtan, the prasadam, then like the philosophy, like they're so learned there. But of course, that was my idea was, well, I can enjoy this, right? That was like, oh, I can get something out of this for myself. That was the idea. And Prabhupada's saying here in the purport to this text 35 that 4 kinds of men, the needy, the distressed, the enlightened, and the inquisitive, approach the Lord in devotional service. And their devotion is mixed with material affection, right? So we all come to Krishna consciousness with some level of material affection, unless we're just completely pure devotees and we're Shakti Vaishavatars and we just come and join the movement. We have some level of material desires, and this is what we're working on ridding ourselves of and coming to the platform of actually, like Vidura is here asking, how do I satisfy Krishna? I'm not worried about my own satisfaction. How do I satisfy Krishna? So we have all these 4 things, or we have a mix of these 4 things, or one of these 4 things, being needy, being distressed, being enlightened, being inquisitive. I was definitely in like the distressed category, needy and distressed, wanting something out of it. But then it says, Prabhupada says right after that, above these people that come with some material motive are the pure devotees, whose devotion is not tainted by any material tinges of fruit of work or speculative knowledge. And where is this? Anyways, I don't have it here. Oh. Anyways, I can't remember exactly where this was, but I just read this recently that even though, I guess it's in this purport of 716, if you go to that, if you go down, 716, and then go down below where it says Anya Bilashita Shunyam. It's right there, it's a little bit below that. Keep going. So the next the next paragraph. When these 4 kinds of persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service and are completely purified by the association of a pure devotee, they also become pure devotees. As far as the miscreants are concerned, for them devotional service is very difficult because their lives are selfish, irregular, and without spiritual goals. But even some of them, by chance, when they come in contact with a pure devotee, also become pure devotees. This is so amazing right here. This is something, I've read Bhagavad Gita a couple of times now, but this, I was hearing my Guru Maharaj say that you read the whole Bhagavatam, and then you start over and you read it again and you say, oh, I didn't see that. I never saw that part. I don't remember this being in there and this. And then you read it again and it happens over and over and over again. So it's really amazing, at least for me. I know the first time I read Bhagavatam was just like, the first time, I'm still on my first time reading through, it's just all going over my head completely. But now sometimes I go back to the first canto or, looking into, researching for this class, and I read things, I'm like, oh, I never saw that. I never knew that. But this is really amazing, that, and we hear it so many times, but the association of the pure devotee is what can make us become pure devotees, even though we come to devotional service with these different material motivations, or even if we're miscreants, the lowest of mankind, as is described in the previous verse, even that, Vamsi Prabhu was talking about, even if we're in that status, that we don't have any level of piety, we're not trying to surrender to Krishna, still we can get that mercy of the pure devotee, and still we can come to devotional service and we can become pure devotee, like Jagai and Madai are there, and they got the mercy. They weren't striving to become devotees, they weren't eager to serve the Lord or anything like that, they just got complete mercy. And similarly, we see so many Jagais and Madais are being turned into pure devotees through the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada came over and this whole country was full of Jagais and Madais. It's just completely irreligious, no idea of culture or acting on the human platform or anything like that. In fact, there's this quote of this British lord or somebody like that said when some devotees came before Prabhupada's time, and they presented this idea that, okay, you have to live without meat eating, gambling, intoxication, and illicit sex. This person said, we can't give this up. This is our entire life, actually. And this is actually the case. You see, this is the case of the modern civilization. Now it's even infiltrating into India itself, that people are so engrossed in these activities that they can't separate them from who they are as a person. They can't identify with anything other than the sinful activities, and it's really crazy. But even those people, we're seeing, Prabhupada is able to turn them into pure devotees. And so it gives us a lot of hope in our situation, you know. Many of us here actually from quite pious births, actually, but, you know, for myself, coming from an American background, and, you know, my parents are beef-eating drunkards, you know, the men in my family are women hunters and all these things, and horrible, you know, just the lowest of mankind. And yet somehow, by Krishna's mercy, I've been able to come here and take up this process and follow the four regulative principles and all these things for some time now. It was inconceivable to me to even think. If you took me, you know, before I came here and told me that I would be doing this, I would be in disbelief. There's no way. Definitely there's no way I could do something like this. So we see the mercy of the Lord is very great, and the mercy of the pure devotees, that just by giving us their association and instructing us and giving us devotional service, giving us Krishna, we're able to come to the platform of pure devotional service. And it's really amazing. We're from being so low all the way to the topmost platform. And, you know, Lord Chaitanya came and he gave us the highest platform of attaining love of God. So, you know, the Bhagavad Gita goes all the way to the point of surrender to Krishna, but it doesn't expand further upon how to actually love Krishna and what does that love look like, right? And then Lord Chaitanya came to give us this. So, you know, all this mundane philosophy, all the Western philosophers, they might end at the level of understanding I'm not the body, like this Socrates came to this conclusion, right? And they killed him and he said, you can't kill me because I'm not the body. So he somehow came to that conclusion philosophically through mental speculation or whatever. So they might come to that conclusion, which is the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita. That's the very first teaching of Bhagavad Gita. And then the Bhagavad Gita goes on to explain, ultimately ends with the idea that, okay, surrender to Krishna, give up all these varieties of religion that we're talking about here, these different religious activities, and just surrender unto me, Krishna says. And then, of course, Lord Chaitanya took it even further and showed us how to actually love Krishna and how to attain this highest position of being the servant of the servant of the servant. So like I'm saying, you know, people don't have this understanding that Krishna is the enjoyer, that we're not actually the enjoyer. We're meant to be enjoyed by Krishna. And even as devotees, it's something we have to constantly repeat and try to imbibe and remember over and over and over again. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would repeat this so many different times. We're not seeing Krishna. Krishna is seeing us. You know, we're not meant to enjoy. Krishna is enjoying us. And we say, you know, we're not enjoying prasad. The prasadam is enjoying us. And it's inconceivable. It's something we can't understand when we first hear that. What does that even mean? But it's something we have to work to try to understand, because this is the central point of our philosophy. This is the vital aspect of Krishna consciousness, is that we're not meant to enjoy. And everything we're doing, everything we're meant to do in this as a jiva is meant to satisfy Krishna. It's meant to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, again, because nobody knows this, they think, well, they have some impersonal conception of God, or they have some impersonal conception, or they think that they are God. Therefore, they come to the conclusion that, well, I should enjoy. And if I enjoy, then that's the topmost thing. Then that's how I'll actually become satisfied. They are in the illusion that if I enjoy, then I'll be happy. Despite so many attempts, they try so many different things, and we've increased so much technology, and all this sense gratification has just, you know, increased more and more and more. We have so many new ways to enjoy in this world, enjoy our senses. And despite seeing that it's still not satisfying, people are still in the illusion that they'll eventually get to that point of satisfaction. Eventually they can get there. And so they think religion is just another way to give them satisfaction, another way to gratify their senses, right? Give us our daily bread, as the Christians say. And they flip things where they try to make God their servant. Instead of understanding that we're the servants of God, they try to say, well, God, please give me this, please give me that, please keep this away from me, this disease or this misfortune. And when we see that when their prayers for sense gratification or whatever are unanswered, or their plans are thwarted, then many people become atheistic. Like we were talking about recently, that in the World War I or II, France, many of them became atheistic because they lost the war. They were losing, and they were praying, and because their prayer wasn't answered, they said, "Oh well, God must not exist because He didn't answer my prayer." But of course, this is not the point of religion, as we understand, to get something out of God. Even the very beginning of Bhagavatam, the second shloka in Bhagavatam, 112, talks about this kaitava dharma projita kaitavo. So completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. So it immediately starts and says, this text, this Bhagavatam, completely rejects all of this cheating religion, which is materially motivated, right? And we understand there's so many things. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmani navratam. Savaipum samparo dharmo yato bhaktir tokshari. Ahaituki apratihata. Unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service. This is the highest dharma, paro dharma. So this is repeated so many times throughout Vedic literatures and given by our acharyas, that the highest duty, the highest religion, the real form of religion is not one in which we try to get something out of God and we try to enjoy our senses through religiosity. It's understanding that pursuing anything in this material world is a useless endeavor if it's not connected to serving Krishna, and that this entire world is a prison house that has been designed to punish the living entities for trying to enjoy separately, and also give us a way out through, again, like I'm saying, through the mercy of the pure devotee. We can actually make our way out of this labyrinth, this maze of samsara that we're in. And so we see this cheating religions that are happening in the world. What ends up happening, and what has happened through recent history, is that, well, a couple hundred years ago, I don't know the details of this, but I've heard this story that there was a very publicized debate in England, I think, somewhere in Europe, between a scientist and a priest, right, of the church. And so many people gathered, and it was very publicized, like I said, and the scientist just completely smashed the priest, because anybody with some common sense can easily just destroy like Christian philosophy, so-called philosophy. Why is someone born, in this situation poor, and someone was born rich, and so many things. They can't describe what heaven is like. They can't explain so many things that can't be explained, obviously, that we've discussed so many times. But because of that, people gained more faith in science, and they said, "Oh, well, see, look, they were able to defeat them." And what they're saying actually makes much more sense, even though ultimately we look at it a little bit more, and maybe it's a little bit more understandable or more coherent than Christian philosophy, but it still doesn't make sense. But because it was somewhat superior to Christian philosophy, everyone was, okay, now, we should be more, we should move away from the church and all these things. And actually, Prabhupada says that as soon as people can get these things, sense gratification, economic development, etc., outside of religion, then the churches and the mosques and temples, they all become empty because people are busily getting these things somewhere else, right? So now people, through technology, they're able to get so much economic development and therefore sense gratification, and all these, all the ways that they're improving technology and science and all these things. They're able to get that, so they don't see any need for religion anymore, because that's what religion was doing for them. It was improving their economic condition, improving their sense gratification, etc. And so therefore they just simply reject religion. And there's also, at least in my experience, I've seen some other people like that, and myself, I think I would fall into that category of where if you have a little bit of kind of discrimination, a little bit of philosophical thought, and you're raised in one of these cheating religions, you can very quickly see how it's just nonsense. There's so much cheating going on. And you see, I'm going to show this in a couple minutes here, but you see how there's billionaire pastors that have private jets, and what they do in the church is crazy. It looks like a music festival or something. Like they spend millions of dollars on having a show in their church instead of, even preaching about God or anything like that. They turn it into a big, huge, like maha sense gratification event. But you see this, and you're raised to believe this, and you say, oh, well, just have faith in this, and you can go to heaven, and don't question things, and all these, just kind of go along with it. Just don't question it, and be a good person, and as long as you believe, then you'll go to heaven. But anybody that kind of uses a little bit of discrimination and maybe reads through the Bible and sees so many contradictions, and asks questions, and then their questions aren't satisfactorily answered. There's nobody with a philosophical basis of understanding that can answer their questions. Therefore, the result of such being raised in such a situation, at least for me, was I become very atheistic. I said, oh, well, there must not be God. This must just all be cheating, because I've been raised to believe that this is how it is, that Jesus is the only way, and if I do whatever I want, but as long as I just believe in Him, it just doesn't make sense, actually. So we see so many people that, they have a little bit of discrimination, a little bit of intelligence, and they might be raised in that tradition, and then they leave, and they become atheistic like this. There's this guy on YouTube, he's called Alex O'Connor. He's quite good, actually. He went to Oxford, and he got advanced degrees in theology. And he says in some of his videos, like, I want to believe in God. I actually do want to be a theist. And I'm eager to do so, and I'm looking for Him everywhere. And he studied, Christianity and the Bible in college in Oxford, which is like very prestigious school, and he got advanced degrees in this. So he's very, knowledgeable about the Bible. And what he does on YouTube now is he just brings Christians on, and he just basically debates with them, and points out all the flaws in the logic of Christianity and the philosophy of Christianity. And like I'm saying, he's saying, I'm not like militantly atheist, I'm open to knowing God, but nothing that this Bible is telling me is actually convincing me. There's nothing in here that actually is, there's so many contradictions in here. There's so many problems in this. I can't get around this. I can't. So even when people have the desire to know God, if these cheating religions are there, and they, approach a cheating religion, then it can have the opposite effect. It can actually make them atheistic. So it's very dangerous. And this is why Bhagavatam and Krishna consciousness is so important, because we go on this college campus, and there's this boy that's comes, he came to the retreat and everything. He comes basically every day to our place. And he's taking up Krishna consciousness, chanting and reading Prabhupada's books and stuff like that. And before he met us, he had been reading the Bible, the Quran. He read other stuff too. Like he's probably reading different texts, and he was looking for God, right? He was searching, but a lot of his questions weren't being answered. And then when he came to us, he started speaking to Chandan, and he would just sit for hours and ask questions to Chandan. And Chandan's just able to very clearly explain so many things, because the philosophy of Krishna consciousness is very clear, it's very simple, and it's also, it answers all of these basic questions, like why is someone born in this situation and someone else is born in that. All the things that Christianity couldn't answer are answered by our philosophy. And they're satisfying answers. Actually, they make complete sense logically and philosophically. And, he's admitted, okay, like, you guys are good. Like, I can't get you. Like, I can't find anything that I can ask that you guys aren't able to answer satisfactorily. So it's really like, it really shows, that we have, something very special here. And ultimately, like I'm saying, the point is to come to the platform of not just seeking after sense gratification, economic development, etc., but to understand who is the real enjoyer and how do I facilitate the enjoyment of this person, of Krishna. we see in the Bhagavatam 10th canto as well, there's this chapter 23, I think it is, the Brahmana's wives blessed. So I just read through this, and this is a very good example of this. So, the Brahmanas are there, they're preparing for their sacrifice, they're going to do some yajna, and then Krishna and his friends come, and Krishna and Balaram send the cowherd boys to go say, go try to get something from them to eat. Ask them, tell them that Krishna and Balaram want something to eat, they're hungry, and see if they'll give you something. And they went. And actually it's described that the Brahmanas, they didn't even respond. They just completely ignored them. And it reminded me, I was just thinking about that. I was like, that kind of reminds me of going out on books sometimes and, going on Sankirtan, because especially at this college, now everyone has these AirPods. Like, this is like the bane of our existence, actually. Now some Sunday soon, they'll probably have something on their eyes too. They can't even see you, but they have these AirPods, and it's the same thing. We go up to them and we ask, please, can you please give something to Krishna? We're asking the same thing that the cowherd boys are asking. Sir, you have so much. We're just asking for something small from you. Just can you please give something to Krishna? And they're so puffed up by their material situation that they completely ignore it. They just walk right by. They see us, but they act like they don't, and they just walk right on by. And so it's like, kind of reminding me of that. And then, of course, what happens next is that, the cowherd boys go back, and Krishna's not like fried out, like, oh, how dare they do that? But he just smiles and he says, okay, now go back and ask their wives the same thing. So he does that, and they go, and the wives immediately, they hear that Krishna and Balaram are hungry. They, oh my gosh, like, we got to go. So they get all the food, and they go bring it to Krishna. And it's described, of course, that similar to the gopis, where it wasn't socially acceptable for them to do such a thing, to leave their family and go out and just go to Krishna and give him these things. They were actually meant to be helping with these sacrifices, this yajna that the Brahmanas were performing. But they completely rejected all that. They completely rejected any material situation, and they understood that their position as servants of Krishna, and they just wanted to satisfy him. They gave up everything else just to satisfy Krishna. And so this obviously satisfied the Lord, and is a nice example of showing how we can be in a very nice material position. We can be Brahminical and doing all these sacrifices, all these according to Vedic regulations and all these things. But if we're not focused on satisfying Krishna, if we're not taking that opportunity to satisfy the Lord, when he's literally, his associates are right there asking for this, asking for us to do something for him, then all of it's for nothing. All of it's actually just, again, it's just another form of this cheating religion. It's all just a complete waste, actually. So, they kind of exemplified, these wives exemplified the true, the attitude and the mood of the devotee, to be willing to give everything up to satisfy Krishna. And this is the beginning of real religion. So all these cheating religions should be spoken about, they should be pointed out, and we should establish that this Bhagavatam and this Krishna conscious movement is something of a completely different caliber. It's actually the opposite to all of these cheating religions, and it's giving us the highest thing. Like I said in the very beginning of Bhagavatam, it explains that this is completely rejecting all this kaitava dharma, all this cheating religion, and it's establishing this this irrevocable service to the Lord, this pure devotional service to the Lord within the heart. And it's repeated so many times that this is how we satisfy the Lord. This is how we actually satisfy him, is not through our fruitive activities, not through elaborate yajnas and sacrifices and doing all these things according to the Vedic literature, but simply patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakta prayachati, giving a leaf, a flower, fruit, water, something very simple that anybody can do. It's not that we have to have some huge elaborate sacrifice, or we don't have to build a 200,000 square foot mega temple or mega church in Texas, like I'm going to show here, in order to satisfy the Lord. And of course we should build nice temples and everything, but we should understand that the principle that Krishna is satisfied by our endeavor, not by how much we're giving or something. So a billionaire could give $1 million to Krishna, which is only a 1,000th of their wealth, or someone with only $10. Like we meet so many people on the street, I only have $10 left in my bank account, and we say, give it. And they give the whole thing, and they gave everything they had to Krishna, so it's much different. And so the mercy that these people are getting just by giving a little bit to Krishna on the streets that we meet is actually unfathomable. I mean, we have this other example. I've been really thinking about this. This is mind-blowing to me. There's this boy Ankush. He's been coming as well. He's taken up Krishna consciousness, chanting 16 rounds, falling 4 eggs and all these things, eating only prasad. And what happened with him is he came to America a few years ago, and he moved to South Dakota for grad school. And he was there, and he got into some bad association, and he started doing some sinful things. He comes from a background where he never did anything. I mean, he's never, still to this day, never eaten meat in his life. And he'd come to America very, pious, and fell into some bad association. Some circumstances happened where he, was doing some unfavorable things. But then one day he went to Mount Rushmore. And if anybody knows, that's where someone we know goes and distributes books. Ali-Krishna Prabhu goes there. And he sets up his table right at the entrance to the park. And there's just one path. I've never been there, but it's just one path you go down, and you gotta go by him basically. And so this boy Ankush goes there, and somehow or other he had a $100 bill in his pocket, and he told me that's like all he had. He didn't have a bank account at that time, and he just had some cash. I don't know if he had like a few $100 bills or if that's all he had, but he had this in his pocket, and he walked by and he saw, the Bhagavad Gita's there, and he had that piety from his background and all these things, and he's like, okay, well, he ended up getting the Bhagavad Gita from Ali-Krishna Prabhu. I don't know what kind of conversation they had or anything like that, but he got the Bhagavad Gita and he pulled out his wallet and he said, well, all I have is this, so I'll just give you this. He gave him $100. And I don't think he had that much money. I mean, he's coming from India and he's a student. Most students don't have so much money like that. But he gave so much for a Bhagavad Gita. And then, years later, just recently, what happened was he decided randomly, after almost a year, he said, of not using this, to download Instagram on his phone. And he just randomly decided to do that, and he started scrolling on these reels, these short videos. And he was just wasting time, just brain rot, all this stupid stuff. And then, all of a sudden, Chandan popped up on his feed. And he saw, and keep in mind, what had just happened literally 2 minutes before this was me and Chandan had met and said, oh, we need to change the name of our place, or the name of our account on there, because it was called like Life as a Monk. And just like a general, preaching thing. And then we had just gotten this place in Athens, and we're like, okay, well, we should change this to just be about Athens, so that we can attract people that are local to Athens to our place. So we literally just changed that. We just made the logo and just like updated the name, and we pressed save. We were still like sitting there looking at the phone, and literally like a minute later, he messaged and said, oh, you guys are in Athens, like I just found this. I'm looking for, I want to practice Sanatana Dharma and all this. I'm a student at UGA. And so somehow, I don't know how the timing worked. If he had seen that video earlier, he probably would have just gone right by. He might have deleted Instagram. And the other thing is, where we go on campus and where he goes, completely different. He would never have seen us for years. Even if we go out there every day to the campus, he never would have walked by because he's never there. It's like a mile away from where he goes. So there's no chance we would have met him. And he had gone from basically just being just like any other like Western student, doing all the things, all the partying that they all do, to now he's, he had quit that before he met us, but he'd been trying to, come into some association of, he didn't know devotees, but he wanted to, take up some religiosity, right? He had some desire to do so. And because that place is there in Athens now, he's able to come every day, get association of devotees. He chants 16 rounds. He's hearing Bhagavatam class. He's, engaging in service. He's doing so many things. And he's giving, Lakshmi to the center. And he's doing so many things, helping. And he's just going to increase his service more and more. And now he's, hopefully, it looks like he might move in next year. So next semester. So all of that from, this causeless mercy of he gave something to Krishna, and now you see what Krishna is reciprocating in so many ways. He's getting so much nice prasadam, he's getting this nice community he's plugging into. So it's really nice to see, and there's no way that could have happened. That's completely, definitely Krishna's hand, because the timing of it and everything, the way it worked is just too amazing. I wanted to show this too before. Let me mirror. This is, like I was saying, this cheating religion. So I don't know if you can really see this, but this is some stuff that happens in a church in Texas. So it literally, like I said, it looks like a Willy Wonka. I mean, I used to, when I was, before I joined, I used to go into concerts and stuff, but I never saw anything like this. Like, this is a crazy production. This is millions of dollars, definitely, on just like this show. They somehow got camels in there. It's crazy. You see the comments too. This is against the Bible. And they can see this is cheating religion. That's what the comments are saying, even though it's just some people on Instagram. They see, look, this is cheating. This is complete nonsense. So, and this happens so many places, and pastors are making billions of dollars and all these kind of things. So, yeah, it's a crazy situation. And okay, it's 9:35, so I'll end my class there. If there's any comments or questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you. I've never seen Hare Krishna.
Yeah, it should be on.
Oh, you have to just hit it harder. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, I'm sorry I was late, but I'm very happy that I came, because right after I came, you started talking about how when you were young, you became disillusioned. You became disillusioned with the Christian religion because you couldn't find the answers to the questions that you needed to have answered. Mm-hmm. And because of that, you tended toward atheism. I had the exact same experience. I was brought up Catholic, and then I started asking questions, and the Catholic theologians, they couldn't answer my questions. The priests couldn't answer. And even when I studied the Bible, I found interesting points that Christians never address. Like when Jesus says to his friends, "Who do they say that I am?" And they say, "Some say you are Elijah reborn, and some say you are John the Baptist." So in the Bible, Constantine accidentally left some principles of reincarnation and karma. Like when Jesus would heal people, he would say, "Go and sin no more." Why would he say that? It's the same principle that Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda taught to Jagai and Madai. That, okay, we healed you, but do not sin anymore, because otherwise you're incurring more karma fall. So when I got to college, I left the Catholic faith, and instead of improving, because there wasn't any way that I could know how to reach higher toward God, so I became hopeless and disillusioned, and I became an atheist. So that eventually Krishna cured me of that, but it took a while. So I appreciate it very much that you have made that. You've had that experience yourself, and you've made that observation, and you're preaching about it to others, because it's true. That's what happens. When people they can't find the answers, then they become hopeless, and they leave So thank you for that. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, it's funny. We see that. I mean, the amount of students and young people, because we do this Bhakta program, the amount of people that have the exact same story as me, that I tell them this, and then, oh yeah, I had the same, or they tell me that first, and I say, oh yeah, same exact thing. Grew up Christian, became disillusioned with it, became more atheistic, and then now they start exploring more, right? Because atheism isn't fulfilling at all. Like, it just becomes, you become just like morose, you know, it's just narcissistic, you know, I mean, not nihilistic, you know, just, oh, there's no meaning. And so then they search for something, because, yeah, we want to know God, right? And so, yeah, it's amazing. Yes, Prabhu.
It seems, at least I heard from Chandan Acharya Prabhu, that the overwhelming majority of students who are from wealthy backgrounds, who are who are intelligent, who are at least in UGA. I definitely don't think that's the case in every university in North America, but at least in UGA, it seems that pretty much the best of the students are Christians, and they're pretty firm
Oh, yeah.
Christians.
Yeah.
How do you attract them to Krishna consciousness?
Yeah. That's like the $1 million question. Because we talk about this all the time, that if they took it up, they would be amazing devotees. They're already following 3 regular principles, more or less. You know, they meet, but many of them they're celibate till marriage. They
don't drink?
No, they don't drink. They don't any intoxication. They don't gamble. And they're so, like, you know, fired up to preach too. Like, they'll go up to any, especially if they see us. Oh, there's a different religion. Let me go, like, tell them about Jesus. You know, it's like they're so eager to, like, preach their thing. And we see, in history, that what Christians have done is crazy.
Not preachers.
No, yeah, they're just students, right? So many of them. Some of them are in the student ministry and they're involved in the club, but
a lot of them seem to, like, right after university, they just do ministry for like 2 years.
yeah.
And in my opinion, if we can somehow crack it, like, I think about, like, when I read this Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav, I think about it, like, how he was able to, like, get through to so many of these people and, like, be able to establish by defeating, like, the Smarta Brahmanas and, you know, establishing, like, Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta so nicely. If we can somehow do that with the Christians, that would, like, that feels like that's really gonna.
You want to compare Bhaktisiddhanta, he attacked them.
Yeah, that's what I say. We got to figure out how to do that.
He just went straight.
Just wait.
He attracted a lot of those people, actually. Bhakti-Rakshak Maharaj, for instance, was the use of this. Bhakti-Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj comes from a Brahmin background. So many, actually, of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciples were from highly educated Brahmin backgrounds, which was an affront to the community, because Bhaktisiddhanta himself doesn't come from a Brahmana background. So, same thing you see with Narottam Das Thakur also. He directly did not confront the Brahmanas, but Srinivas Acharya did. He was from Brahmana background. But Narottam Das Thakur's disciples, they went at it. They were from Brahmin backgrounds, and they went at other Brahmins, and they really, like, there's some prominent ones, some of his prominent disciples. If you're giving that example, seems like that was their technique.
Like, my experience so far has been that I can get them to a point where they can't, like, agree with their own philosophy, but their faith is just like, it's like, you know, they don't move from that. It doesn't matter if you defeat them in philosophy. So, like, I'm, like, thinking, what else is there how do you shake that faith from that and then bring it to, like, platform of Krishna consciousness? It's like, I don't know how it's possible, but
You could even take so many things from the Bible. We have this whole pamphlet. It says, Jesus, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. But if you look at the original,
Yeah.
Huh? What do you say?
Yeah. That's the level of like it's so bodily conception of life. It's so deep.
Yeah.
Even this guy, Alex O'Connor. Alex.
Yeah.
He doesn't agree with the theology, but at base he says, if I was to go to any religion, I'll still go to Christianity. That's what he says, and I'm like, bro, are you crazy? Like, it doesn't make any sense, and you can defeat it all, but still, I would go to Christianity. Like, the bodily conception of life is so deeply strong.
It's funny because actually Christianity, its roots is not from the Caucasian, body, the race either. It's completely Middle Eastern. It is absolutely and totally Middle Eastern. And they act as if Jesus is like, some white man, is like, he wasn't. And neither are the, people of Israel or Palestine the entire Abrahamic religion comes from the Arabian Peninsula. Moses, all these things, the place is actually in Saudi Arabia. All that Mount Sinai and all this. And,
You can see people like Navani Hoda Prabhu, Mason, Nityawan Prabhu, they all come from like that. When they have like a good Christian family background, it seems like they're raised very nicely.
yeah, but you see, if you can shake their faith, they're generally not people who will become faithless into atheists. So they'll have to switch their faith and they can become Christian. They could become, from Christian, they could become Krishna conscious. But how do you do it?
You just gotta get a few, and then get the leaders.
Yeah,
That's your theory.
That's my theory.
I think they'll all become like, if you get a few, then the rest of them will just
At least-
turn on that guy.
At least subconsciously, I think that the biggest theme that is blocking them from moving from Christianity is this conception that the devil is very convincing.
Yeah.
And so he'll do anything to shake your faith. No, he'll put the greatest things in front of you, and they always, even me, coming into this, I really had to do my research. I was like, this literally could be straying me away, losing a lot of time in my journey. I was like, I got to be sure about this. But ultimately, I concluded, I'm sincerely trying, and I hope Jesus sees that. This seems to be the most bona fide path. I hope he understands if I made the wrong choice that I'm trying. But most people, they don't want to get over that hump. They're just the devil is very, Ethan, he was so strong. And then just a comment on a YouTube video, a super vague parable in Timothy, he was oh my God, this is the devil tricking me. And then just boom, out. And it's so it's this is a really strong theme that even if you're into it for some time, then you can get pulled out by
That's the thing too. If you
learn more about the devil than they do about Jesus.
yeah.
that's the other thing. If you're trying to get these Christians, it could turn into that. They could become really fired up, and then they go back to Christianity, and then they're super, militant against you.
Yeah.
Well, most don't.
Most don't go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like he's saying,
Look at most of the devotees. There's a few that do go back.
yeah, that's true.
Most don't.
That's true.
I mean, come on,
But most,
Krishna consciousness is not so easy to forget or give up also. I mean, it's not.
yeah, that's true.
It generally,
Especially when you want to switch to another faith. You could go into Maya, that's one thing. but to switch your faith, that's something
become a
else.
Muslim or something, it's dude,
They become Mayavadis or something. Generally, it's very hard. That's there, but there are few.
Yeah.
But switch from the Vedic paradigm to Abrahamic religions,
The funny thing is, at least with someone like Ethan, it's they had no faith in God at all, basically, before they came into Krishna consciousness.
That's the thing.
All sorts of stuff. So then they somehow found a platform to use Krishna. They had got faith in God from Krishna consciousness, and then it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's what I mean? It's just what is this? The way that
I
Maya.
don't think the ex-Christians can understand it either. Can you understand how we did what you did?
Bodily conception of life.
Bhakti Siddhanta. What is it? Prabhupada said that we're the real Christians, right? So,
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur
yeah. So yeah, I mean,
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur stated that.
we can emphasize that.
That's in the
That's
Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava.
that's a pretty like controversial thing, you know.
Yeah,
It's
we're
like,
the real Christians.
yeah,
Convince me otherwise.
yeah. You're not a real Christian, like we are.
Mohit Prabhu has a comment.
Mohit Prabhu has a comment.
Okay. This mic is.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Pranam Prabhu.
Pranam. Ali Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
So in Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava, there's an instance where in front of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, one of his sannyasi disciples' ex-wife, she comes and in front of him holds the sannyasi and drags him back into family life. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is, anyway, there's a whole, he's heartbroken. But then, what happens is that this ex-sannyasi, in order to cover himself from the embarrassment of, coming back home as a sannyasi, he fakes being a Christian for some time. People usually, and he fakes it, and the whole reason he fakes being a Christian for some time is because he wants to, just stop the humiliation from other people. So I just changed my faith. And then again, anyway, later on after that, he comes back and he becomes a sannyasi again. This time, his wife doesn't pull him back. But the point I'm making in Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava, this whole idea is that sometimes if people somehow pull back into sense gratification, they sometimes just use Christianity or a religion of sorts to justify their sense gratification. That's the whole, the main reason why someone is not attracted to Krishna consciousness after they come into Krishna consciousness, one is because they're offensive, and if they're offensive, then they become Mayavadis, or who knows what's going to happen to them. But then if they're just attracted to sense gratification due to weakness of heart, then they just use religion as an excuse for their sense gratification. Here you go, boom, okay, I believe in Jesus and I can go and have illicit sex and intoxication and eat meat. What's the problem? So, so that I was thinking that could also be another thing, because people may realize that, hey, if I do this, then I may have to give up some sense gratification, some kind of sense gratification I may have to give up.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Summarize that for Mataji. She's not.
Okay, sure.
Mic working?
So, Prabhu was saying that in Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava, there's an instance of one sannyasi, disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that his wife came in front of everyone, in front of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and the sannyasi, and dragged him back into family life. Took him away, and Bhaktisiddhanta was very sad about this, but that this sannyasi, out of embarrassment, ex-sannyasi, he pretended for some time to be a Christian and to take up the Christian faith. And then after a while, after that, just because of embarrassment, and then after a while he came back and took sannyasa again and joined back. So he was saying that sometimes people, if they're offensive to devotees, they will maybe become a Mayavadi or something like that. Or if they're attracted to sense gratification and due to weakness of heart, they might leave devotional service and they might pretend or take up some other religion in order to kind of hide from the embarrassment or justify their sense gratification in some way. Yeah. So, okay. Any other comments or questions? No? Oh, Chandra.
So,
Mataji has some. It's just
There's
the
a
mic
mic
is for the
for the-
live stream so they can hear online.
There's one thing Srila Prabhupada did. When a Christian, he would be, interviewing or speaking with a Christian, and the person would try to get Srila Prabhupada to quote from the Bible. Prabhupada would say, no, we're not talking about the Bible here. We're talking about the Bhagavad Gita. And then he would be in control of the conversation because he would ask questions. And if they wouldn't answer the question, Prabhupada would stick to it, and he would say, no, you first answer this question. And then if they couldn't answer it, then they felt defeated. So Prabhupada was the most expert preacher, and he wouldn't speak to them on the platform of the Bible. I have a tendency to do that because I know so much about the Bible. And but like somebody was making the point that that they won't even pay attention if you quote something from the Bible that's relevant to the conversation. They'll just discount it because they'll say, no, you're just talking about, you're just a representation of the devil and you're just trying to make me change my faith. But Prabhupada wasn't like that. He was a level higher. He would say, no, we're not talking about the Bible, we're talking about Bhagavad Gita. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. You didn't have anything? No? Okay. Anybody else? Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatribhishcha kripasinvya vichapatitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.